Rappin' with ReefBum is sponsored by Bulk Reef Supply and Ecotech Marine.
Hey, what's happening, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Rappin' with ReefBum. I'm your host, Keith Berkelhammer. So, on today's live stream, I welcome back Abe Tirona from Coral Euphoria. What's up, Abe, man? How you doing?
Thanks for having me. Hey,
man,
good.
we got a lot of people tuning in. Everybody wants to see what Abe's got to say here. You know, I mean, I think you hold the record, Abe, in terms of the most viewed Rappin' with ReefBum in the 2-year history of this show. So I don't know what it is about you, man, but obviously people want to tap into your knowledge. So
sounds good.
So for those of you that don't know Abe, he runs CoralEuphoria.com, the website he uses to sell his high-end and high-quality SPS frags. He also has a very successful YouTube channel with nearly 17,000 subscribers. He doesn't put out a lot of videos, man, but when he does, they get a lot of attention. He also has about 2,500 followers on Instagram. So, as many of you know, Abe is a stickhead like me, so it should be another fun discussion. But here are some things that you might not know about Abe. He had a 5-year U.S. Navy tour. He was enlisted, and his job was a dental technician. He has a BS in chemistry from the University of California at San Diego, and he has a MD from the Medical College of Virginia with training in internal medicine as a radiologist. He does have a current active medical license in the state of California. Officially, he refers to himself as a semi-retired physician, since he is currently only doing reefing stuff. So really impressive, Abe. But before we start chatting with Abe, I want to thank the sponsors for the show, both Bulk Reef Supply and Ecotech Marine. Really appreciate these companies supporting the show, and I also appreciate from all you folks that are tuning in. I see there's a lot of people that are finding the stream, and I want to thank all of you for tuning in. And don't forget to hit that like button. We've got a ton of people watching. We've got to get those likes up, folks, so more people can find this stream. And as usual, we welcome your comments in the chat, as well as questions. I've got a bunch of questions, but certainly we would like to lean on the audience for the questions, and I'll do my best to keep track of the chat. I always wear multiple hats here, Abe. You know, I've got the moderator hat. I'm the technical director here. I try to keep the conversation going with you. So yeah, it's a lot of fun though. I really enjoy it, and I'm looking forward to having you on. So man, it's been a while. What's going on with the tanks?
Not much. I mean, for the most part, everything is the same. I did change the lights a little bit on the 120 gallon, but it's still T5 and LED. I just sort of changed the configuration, but for the most part, it's just old school me, just doing the same thing, trying not to be swayed in another direction by someone's like post, or feeling inadequate by somebody else's post or their pictures or their colors. Just trying to stick to what I do.
Do you ever like look at your tanks and like just kind of like look at your tank, whatever tanks you got going on there, and it's just like, man, tank looks like crap. I got to do something about that. Do you ever like have those kind of feelings of like inadequacy in terms of like your reef tanks? Or I sometimes I look at my tanks, I'm like, man, it's not really where I want it to be.
Oh, I'm sorry. Not really for me.
All right. Well, I thought you were to agree with me, but maybe I should take that question back.
No. It's just that
and where I was going with that is it's kind of like one of those things where this hobby is like it's always something that you can do to try to like make things better. There's always like tweaking going on, and so the perfectionist in me is sometimes is not completely satisfied where the tank is at, or tanks.
I mean, no, it's an important topic. I do think it's a slippery slope. I mean, I guess my response was more like, I'm never that disgusted. I mean, are there times that my corals don't look quite right to me? Sure. I mean, almost all the time. But yeah, it's real easy these days to feel inadequate with all the social media, especially Instagram, and which is why I try to stay off of it. But yeah, it's just important to stay on your game. There's no matter what you do, there's always going to be somebody better than you, right? There's always going to be, playing the piano. There's always going to be someone who could play the piano better than you, even though you're great. And just like reefing, someone's always going to appear is the key word there, to have better corals, to get better results, better growth. Like you and your 3.5 month growth shots are making me feel a little inadequate and making me wonder, should I start dosing all those bacteria products that you're dosing? But, at the end of the day, I always come back to, what I do works. And it's not to say that I don't experiment, because trust me, I understand that like advancing in anything, whether it's in life, entrepreneurship, or just in general, advancing ourselves as a society, and in reefing, you have to experiment a little bit in order to improve, in order to advance. So I kind of mix that mindset with my old school, set mentality of like, this is what it takes to grow acros, and you can't move me off that position. At the same time, I am open to things, but the things have to make sense. I don't fall for these like pseudo-scientific sort of explanations that companies put out there. Like a lot of it is like BS to me. So it takes a lot for me to do something different, is what I'm trying to say.
So yeah, all right. With your medical background, you being a doctor and all that stuff, how have you applied that to the hobby? I mean, you just sort of like talked about, kind of referred to it a little bit there, but do you lean on that at all?
No, no. That's why I never really mentioned it. That's why I took it off like the About Me page on my website. It's like, I don't really think it's relevant. Like my friend would say, like, you should put that on there because it kind of gives you credibility. But I don't really I don't really think that should give me credibility. I think that, my reef tank, how it looks and how my corals look, for better or worse, should determine like the weight that somebody puts on the information that I put out. I think that's the overall arching factor, because, even when you go on the message boards, you have all these professionals and they have these specialties and they sound very smart. But until I see their reef tank, and it's sad, and I'm sorry, but I don't really put a lot of weight on somebody's words, no matter what they say, until I get to see their reef tank. So that's how I kind of want to be judged. But at the same time, I had to get I didn't have to get, but I do have a biochemistry degree, and I would say that I use that more than the actual medical doctor stuff. But yeah.
So you mentioned Instagram, and you also talked about not really thinking somebody's really credible until you can kind of see pictures of their tank and what have you. What do you think of some of these Instagram tanks on Instagram? I mean, yeah.
Oh, I mean, like, dude, like a lot of them are just like awesome. And even though like I know I do my share of like bashing blue light and orange filter type pics because there's a dime a dozen of that on
Yeah.
Instagram. But but being one who has, whatever experience in taking pictures and who ventured into taking blue pictures, like they may be like a little overdone or not edited enough to take out some of the saturation, but there's truth in all those pictures. The picture would have to be really freaking altered to show colors that aren't really there. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Maybe the yellow is not really that bright yellow. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But there is yellow there. So I don't know. It's just the blue light isn't really my thing, but at the same time, yeah, I mean, I don't know. It is what it is.
Are you like a rainbow tenuous kind of guy, or is that just not something that I mean you kind of run your tanks more full spectrum, right? You're not going, you're not emphasizing the blue light, so yeah.
Yeah, for I guess personally, for me, if a coral doesn't look good in like balanced spectrum, balanced lighting, I wouldn't want it. If it only looked good in blue light, I wouldn't want it. The thing is that since I sell frags, though, a lot of those blue light special corals, a lot of those rainbow tenuous are actually desirable by a lot of people. But and they only look good in blue light. But the thing is that if I didn't sell coral, I probably wouldn't even waste the space in my tank for those things. It has to look good in both. And that's sort of that's kind of the value I put into like pieces if they look good in both lighting.
Yeah, I agree with you. I'm not necessarily a rainbow tenuous person, and I wouldn't keep, because I do keep my tanks in the full spectrum lighting, just like hints of blue, so you're not going to kind of see the fluorescence of those pieces in the heavy blue light that you would if you ran that sort of thing. So yeah, it's not something that I gravitate to, but it is, since I also sell frags and whatnot, it is something that I do tend to keep just to have because people like that stuff. So, but that's that's kind of like part of the business that we're in.
Yeah, it would be a bad decision to not do that.
Yeah, for sure. So we got a question from Unorthodox Reef. Would like to hear Abe talk about perfecting flow, polyp movement, pulse times, and patterns. So you do have a lot of flow in your tanks.
Yeah, it's hard to talk about flow because the bottom line is that flow is important, but it's kind of hard to quantify that. It's not like lighting, and then there's that saying, which I think came out of, Jason Fox said that flow is more important than lighting, which is partially true in my opinion. I like to think about it like this. Like it's more deep. It's deeper than that. There are like subcomponents of lighting and there are subcomponents of flow. Like for example, you can have like a multi-directional flow or unidirectional flow. You could have intermittent flow or constant flow, or and random and all that. So there are different like aspects of flow, and just like lighting, there's PAR. That's not the only thing. There's spectrum and there's light spread. So I guess for that statement of like flow, like I would definitely say that light spread, having a good light spread is more important than random flow. But on the flip side of that, I would say that like a broad direct flow is more important than like PAR. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So there are subcomponents of lighting that are more important than some components of flow, and there are some subcomponents of flow that are more important than subcomponents of lighting. But yeah, I mean, I like to just tell people, just try to have your polyps moving on your acropora most of the time, like near 100% of the time, a little bit, like all the polyps, like inside and in the bottom of the colony as well as at the tips. It's not the easiest thing to do, but generally, so being an sorry, You can interrupt me.
No, man, go.
No, but generally speaking, like being like an acropora dude, I personally, when I buy pumps or try to figure out the flow in my tank, it's all for direct flow.
And I'm showing your
Like,
video of the 120-gallon tank right now, so people kind of get a look at the tank and some of the movement in there. Sorry to interrupt.
But no, you're fine. So I guess what I'm trying to say is that, yeah, if you just concentrate on getting the direct flow correct on your acropora, then that's going to be enough flow for the rest of the tank. If you have like a mixed reef, just make sure those polyps are moving all the time, nearly all the time. Yeah.
So in your 120, I think I saw some MP40s, right? And do you also have the Tunzi wave box, or is that in the 140?
Oh, I have wave box in
both.
Well, a wave box in both ends. Yeah. You know, the wave box is not. Yeah, it's not really necessary. It's just cool to see that. I like them though. It probably, yeah. I mean, its contribution to flow is quite minor. It's just cool.
Let me interrupt you there, Abe. Paul from Great Bearded Rig, thank you very much, man, for the super chat. Anything I should expect from a wave box? Acquired a box full of goodies recently, trying to match them up for a 4-foot by 2-foot frag tank.
I mean, it might be loud. I don't know. It's going to be cool once you see that rocking motion. No other pump can duplicate that or effortlessly duplicate that. So, yeah, I think you'll love it. Just make sure your tank is strong. It doesn't bust a seam from all the rocking.
Yeah, you know, that would not be good. So in terms of the MP40s, what do you have those programmed to in terms of the mode?
I used to have them all on Reef Crest, but you know, I got some of the newer MP40s, and I don't like the Reef Crest mode that much anymore. I feel like it doesn't stay long enough at max flow. It's just not enough flow. But also, since there's like an app and you could do all these different flows at different times, I have a mixture of like Reef Crest and there's like tidal thing or something. I don't know. There's just and then I have like 8 hours of just like full blast. I'm not that no, MP40s are one of my favorite pumps, but I don't know.
I play around with that stuff. You know, in my one of my tanks, I've got, you know, the 3 MP40s set to the pulse mode like every 2 seconds. And I think I got them pretty much cranked up all the way. But in my Peninsula tank, I've got I got a lot of stuff going on in there. I got 4 MP40s and 2 MP60s. You know, it's a 6-foot long, 3-foot wide Peninsula tank. And the MP60s are cranked up to like 85% on the, I think I got everything on gyro modes. And it's, you know, it's just kind of same thing. You know, I didn't think the pulse mode was giving me enough giddy up. And the full on like constant mode at 100% was good, but it wasn't kind of giving me that wave action that I was looking for. So it's you know, it's interesting because I can't keep a lot of LPS in that tank because I got a lot of flow. But I noticed in your 120-gallon tank, you've got some Ghanies in there, right? Was that also the tank with a torch garden?
Yeah, little torch area. Yeah, they're getting a ton of flow, but they don't seem to mind. They're pretty stretched out. I don't know.
Let's. I'm gonna roll the video of your 140-gallon tank. So this tank is lit by. Is that lit by the halides and LEDs? Is that what I'm saying?
Yeah, there are two 250-watt metal halides radiums on IceCap electronic ballasts, and then there's like 4 DIY sort of LED modules, and then there's one Reef breeders fixture down the middle between the halides. But I decided to show you guys like underwater pics just to show you guys something different. I think a lot of people know what my tank looks like through my videos, and I don't know, I just wanted it to be different. But it's not the easiest thing to record underwater. It's like I can't even see what I'm recording. That's the way it's all messed up. But you know,
I think we get the picture, man. It's like, so. Do you still have the corals mounted where you can actually pull them out?
Yeah, I do. I can't live without that, man. I don't think I'll ever have a tank without some kind of removable way to remove it. Although it's getting harder to drill rocks nowadays. So
Yeah, for those of you folks that don't know, Abe essentially has this system set up. I think we talked about it the last time you were on the live stream, where you drill the rock with like like a 1/4-inch drill bit, and you've got these acrylic rods, I think, or maybe fiberglass rods that.
they're fiberglass from those driveway markers at like the big box hardware stores.
Yeah, and you just like epoxy them in there, and in terms of attaching the coral to the fiberglass rod, and then you just stick them into the hole in the rock, right? I mean, you don't even glue them in.
Yeah, totally. It's to me, it's like so essential that you're easily able to sort of, manicure your reef. It's just like any garden. You're going to have fast growers and slow growers. You just got to get in there and keep stuff under control, or it's going to look crazy. I mean, it may I know people like that natural look. I see that all the time. People are always talking about, oh, I like it looking natural, and that's cool. That's your thing. But if I was to lean towards one side, I'd like my tank more like a Japanese tank, where like all the colonies are the same size. I know it doesn't look natural, but I think that looks pretty cool.
Something's making noise in my fish tank room here. It's caught my attention. Or maybe it's coming from upstairs, but hopefully I didn't just have a seam bust on me.
Oh, dude.
No, I doubt that's what's going on. Bert Minshew is asking, he saw some of the Aptasia in that last video. You trying to do anything about the Aptasia at this point? Or are you just letting it run?
Oh, yeah. I've actually, because it's gone out of hand. Yeah, they're coming back, because I had Borgia like 1.5 years ago or something like that, and they totally wiped out the Aptasia in both of my tanks. But since then, they've kind of come back. I guess a couple things is, the first thing I did was change the way I feed, because I do feed heavy, and I used to just dump in a shitload of food and let them have at it for like 15 minutes. But now I realize, because I would see when I used to do that, Aptasia would be catching like mysis shrimp.
Oh, really?
And I was like feeding.
You're feeding your
my
Aptasia.
Yeah, PE mysis. I was like, oh my god, this is crazy. So now I just put in. I still feed the same amount, but I just put in little bits at a time, making sure the fish eat it before I put in more. But that's the main thing. I also put in 50 Borgia back into my system, so hopefully the Aptasia goes away. But there, I did want to talk about, so it's there and it sucks, but I'm trying to get rid of it. But I did want to talk about, if it's okay, like Aptasia and hitchhikers and all that, because I definitely meet my fair share of like reefers who are very particular, very anal about not letting any hitchhikers in. I totally think that, I mean, yeah, in theory, that's a good idea. But at the same time, don't be so anal about it that you're actually hurting yourself. Like today's buzzwords is like biodiversity, and we lack that, right? Because of dry rock. But if you're not going to let anything into your tank, you're not going to get that biodiversity that you so crave, So don't talk to me about biodiversity while at the same time being like, oh no, I don't want like little spiro bidworms in my tank. I've never seen like a thriving reef tank that looked all sterile.
Yeah.
Right. So if you have that in your head, you need to get that shit out of your head. I'm not saying that you need Aptasia. You should avoid that at all costs. And verminated snails, yeah, those suck too. But at the same time, like, don't get too crazy about it, man. I don't know. Just don't get too crazy.
I got a similar thought. I think that you could just obsess about trying to like keep your tank pest free, and it's just not going to happen. I mean, yeah, there's like certain pests that you don't want in a tank, like aqua-eating flatworms and red bugs and black bugs and all that sort of stuff, and you should definitely be diligent about quarantining, dipping, blah blah blah. But in terms of Aptasia, in terms of like different types of algae, like bubble algae, I got like big bubble algae, in my peninsula tank. And, people are like, oh, why don't you use some vibrant? And I think that's what the comments were like a couple of months ago. I was like, I'm not, this was before like the whole, shit hit the fan with the vibrant. I'm just not going to like be treating it, the tank like that with any chemicals, especially when you don't know exactly what's in the bottle. But yeah, I'm more of an advocate for natural means. So yeah, trying to get rid of problems by using good old hard elbow grease, and not obsessing about trying to like keep stuff like that out of there. It's just you know, like I said, there's certain things, there's certain pests you do not want in there, but you're not gonna like have a clean reef tank, and that, yeah, it is gonna, I think, impact the biodiversity. Um,
Yeah.
you know, speaking of pests and whatnot, what kind of quarantine system do you have set up for your acros? What's your process in terms of when you bring in new stuff? What do you put them through?
It's so I have a 20-gallon quarantine tank. Well, that's the size of the little display, and there's a 15-gallon sump. It's pretty much the same setup as my other reef tanks. You know, it's like Roafoss, Skimmer. I used to have a bucket fuge in there, but it wasn't pulling anything out. There's not a lot of nutrients in that tank, so I stopped with that. But yeah, and I have T5s over it. But basically, I leave that tank alone. There's like Aptasia growing all over the place in there, but it's stable. You know, there's like hair algae all over the place. But like, so I kind of wanted to make a video on this because I think it's a good topic. But then again, I was like, I'll just say on the side is like there are a lot of I know people are like wondering like why I don't do a lot of videos, but trust me, a lot of stuff goes through my head, and there's a lot of like ideas that I start writing the script for. But like 5 out of 6 video ideas that I come up with usually get nixed. That's like, you know what, forget it, it's stupid. But one of the things that I was thinking about like making a topic on like how to receive coral. See, part of the reason why I wouldn't make a video about that is because it's not going to get a lot of views. Sorry,
I
but I do
disagree
think
with you,
it's
man. I
important.
think your stuff like gets people's attention.
Like, I kind of like to think of it like this: like if you're going to receive coral in the mail or whatever, FedEx or whatever, your mission, if you choose to accept it, is to minimize stress as much as possible because they just went across the freaking country. You know, their temperature dropped or got a little too high. I mean, it's a very stressful situation. And yeah, I mean, if you just think about it in terms of minimizing stress, that's how you can maximize the survival of your new frags. But everything is a stress. I know, like, again, going back to hitchhikers, people want to cut the frag off the frag plug. I do think that's a good practice, but I do think that gluing frags back onto something else after they traveled across the country is a bad idea. So what I do is I do cut frags off the frag plug unless the coral looks like crap. If the coral looks like crap, I'll just put it in the quarantine tank without dipping. I'll just temperature acclimate and put in the quarantine. That's what a quarantine tank is for, is, you know, to be able to have that freedom to be able to just throw something in
Right.
there. But normally, if the frags look good, I'll cut it off the plug, and then I'll dip them in Bio Advance, or Bayer is the old name, and then I'll inspect them, of course, with my little magnifying glass or jeweler's eye loop, and then I'll put them in the frag tank without gluing them. So I have these little. It's just a little cup that I made that I could just literally just put the frag on top of, so it could sit there for like 4 days, and I'll wait 4 days, 4 or 5 days, and then I'll glue it onto a frag plug. But yeah, but see, that's the great thing about having a quarantine tank is if I get a coral that looks stressed out, then yeah, I wouldn't subject it to dipping. I wouldn't cut it off the frag plug. But someone asked me like, oh, how do you know that a frag is stressed out? I mean, it's kind of like a diagnosis that you have to figure
You
out,
know it when
taking in all the different
you know
information.
it when you see it, right?
Yeah, I mean, you take in effect like if it had an unusual long transit time, or if um, the box felt too cold or too warm when you opened it, or the polyps aren't out, or you see stuff floating around, or you open the bag and it's stinky. You know, those are all different signs of stress. I mean, you know, they're all symptoms of stress or suggest that the coral could be stressed. But yeah, I mean, everyone can't have a quarantine tank, and I understand that.
But
But
they
yeah,
are
just
really simple to set up. I mean, I also have a 20-gallon quarantine tank, and I've got like a little GHL Mitras unit on top of that. I've got a hang on the back filter. I've got some, you know, live rock in that tank, heater, a temperature monitor, a little nano skimmer I'm going to be putting on just to kind of like keep the water oxygenated and not really to pull out the nutrients, because I think like you mentioned, you don't have many nutrients in that quarantine tank. I don't either. So I don't have any fish in that tank either. It's just got a couple of you know, turbo snails. But yeah, I think it's you know, you probably spend like a few $100s and have a decent quarantine tank. And my maintenance with the thing is I just basically do 50% water changes every week with the established tank water from one of my other systems. And you know, that's kind of like it. Pretty easy.
yeah, yeah, it doesn't take much. if you have multiple tanks, there's no excuse. You need to have a quarantine tank. I can see if you have like one tank in the house, okay, quarantine tank might be much. But if you're like one of these crazy reefers with multiple tanks and you don't have a quarantine tank, then I would say that you're not that serious
Yeah.
or there's something wrong because you need to have a quarantine
So
tank.
how long do you keep your corals, your frags that you bring in the quarantine tank, and do you dip them while they're in there like on a regular basis? What do you what's your procedure there?
Yeah, I, I don't really see the point in like continue. Because I know people do that. It's like I don't see the point in like just keep dipping it. It's freaking in quarantine already. You don't need to keep dipping it. So I'll usually dip it before it goes in there, and then I'll dip it when I take it out. But in between, I'm just like inspecting them. If I see something that needs to be dipped, then I'll dip it. But I don't just automatically dip them every so days or whatever. But yeah, I usually keep them in there for 2 months. But I'd be lying if I said that the quarantine tank is like an awesome place where everything colors up and grows. Most of the time they do, but sometimes some frags do struggle in
Yeah.
there. So sometimes I'm forced to take them out a little early if they look like they're struggling. But it's just a call that I have to make.
It's not an easy process because you bring in some really high end frags, so you spent a lot of money on the stuff, and you put them in like this 2-bit quarantine tank setup, right? That doesn't have all the fancy equipment. You don't have the hundreds of thousands of dollars invested in equipment for this quarantine tank, and things start like getting not looking so good. Then it could be one of two things. Maybe it does have pests, or it's just the water parameters are just not ideal for the frag, and you gotta. But I've like had stuff in my quarantine tank that just for like 6-7 weeks, and then start kind of like look like they're not gonna make it. So I pull them out of the quarantine tank, and they'll rebound. Sometimes the frags will rebound and color up. It's just amazing to me how resilient acros can be in that regard.
Yeah, yeah. Like if I get totally healthy acrofrags, I won't have any problems with them in quarantine. But if they're like, you know, any indication that they're a little unhealthy, then that's when I'll have my guard up and I'll take them out early if I have to.
So Reef Under the Roof is asking best tips for acros and red bugs and nudies.
Yeah, I mean, the dip thing is just it's just another one of those supplements, man. They always be making claims about what they can do. It's just nuts. Like, when you're, when you go to the doctor, if you have like knee pain, he's not going to just automatically throw antibiotics at you because that's what he gives everybody. That's stupid. I guess my point is that what you use to dip should be specific to what you're actually treating, right? And so since I'm an acro dude, I also dip my torches and everything in that too. Is I use bear. Like I don't I just don't know why people don't use it. For it's gonna kill the bugs. It's gonna kill red bugs, and I've never had black bugs to be sure, but if it's a bug, it's probably gonna die from bear. I don't know for sure though. Red bugs definitely would die from bear. So that's why I use it. And then the other part about okay, so how about acropora eating flatworms? Well, guess what? Nothing kills acropora eating flatworms. Nothing kills acropora eating eggs. They all just weaken them to where they fall off. BioAdvance Bear does the same things. Like I don't see why you need some fancy aquarium dip when Bear does the same thing. It's going to weaken AFAW. You should probably try to cut off dead parts of the coral, any place that has eggs anyway. So yeah, I don't see any point in using anything else besides
Dude,
Bear.
I had been using bear for a long time myself, and Farmer Ty turned me on to potassium chloride as a dip. It's that stuff that you would use for a like a water softener, and I bought like this 40-pound bag of the stuff for like $50. It's like a lifetime supply, and I got this whole dip set up. Basically, what the way it kills the acro-eating flatworms is by osmotic shock. So they basically burst. I mean, you could actually see the acro-eating flatworms like disintegrate if you shoot it with a turkey baster. And the great thing about the dip also is that it's clear, so you can actually see if you do have something falling off. Whereas the bear, it's that milky white color. So it's just something to think about. But it's like, to me, it's like transformative in terms of dips.
I see. This is where this could be pseudoscience again, like causing people to make changes. No, you're 100% right about Bayer. Being cloudy,
Yeah,
and it being hard to see the frag. Like that's annoying to me for
yeah.
sure. But it's not a deal breaker. But my
Oh,
question
it
about
works.
like
It's potent, you know.
yeah, no, but the question about potassium chloride isn't. So the way that you explain it, so yeah. So what you're just making you're just making the salt or the solution more salty, right?
Yeah.
So the water moves out of the AFEW
Yep.
because it's going to go, the gradient.
Yep.
It's osmosis,
Yeah.
whatever. But so how does that not apply to the coral also, right? Because the coral also is used to a specific salinity.
I don't know, man. I have not the last 6 months that I've been using it. Knock on wood, I have not lost any frag on that stuff. It seems really gentle. So yeah, I don't know scientifically, why that's the case, but the stuff does seem to work and is pretty gentle on the corals.
That's another thing too. Is like I hear people and read about people say, "Oh, Bear does this and does that." It's like, man, I'm fine with Bear. It doesn't do anything. I don't have any problems with it. I dip softies, I dip torches in it, I dip my acros in it. But part of the when I told somebody I dip my torches in Bear is because I don't really care about the torch that much. I'm just trying to prevent acropore of pests from getting into my system.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
so everything gets the acro treatment.
Yeah, we're getting some comments about Lauren's Bear is more easy on the acros. KCL can be hard and finiaker acro. I can't even talk tonight here. Reef Girl potassium chloride works. I use it on coral when it comes out of the frag tank. And Reef Keeper Melliflix also seems to melt or have aquaring flatworms fall right off. Abe, have you thoughts on using Melliflix as a dip? Have you done that?
If it, I did try it on a torch that was dying on me. No, but I haven't tried it on acros. But I mean, if it works, then it works. Bear's cheaper, but do what you want.
Yeah,
Oh no, but then you said calcium chloride's cheap too. I mean, potassium
it
chloride.
is. It's like you could buy a lifetime supply for $50 or something like that. So it is. It's definitely cheap. The problem with the Bear for me is being here in Vermont, I couldn't get it in the mail. So for some reason that it was not something that I could order on the internet, and I think even all the Home Depots and the Lowe's and whatnot don't even have that stuff anymore. So for me, it got hard to find. I still have some.
Gotcha.
I'm still just in case, I still have some.
Yeah, I mean, definitely use whatever you have access to. But to think that, well, we'll see where the potassium chloride ends up. But if it works for you, I mean, they all probably do the same thing. You know what I mean? But I really do have confidence in Bayer in killing bugs, the red bugs. They just won't survive that. I mean, can you say that Mellifix is going to kill red bugs? I don't know. Can you say that potassium chloride is going to kill red bugs? I don't know.
The other thing you got to be, I guess, concerned about is the other type of bugs that you got out there, like black bugs. I've heard of white bugs. I don't know how you can see white bugs, but apparently there's white bugs out there, and so I guess interceptor is something that could, if the other types of bugs get by the Bear, then the interceptor is something that can be done to kind of get rid of the other bugs.
Definitely.
So you mentioned you mentioned before about high growth rates and all that stuff, and I've had some really super growth rates on the on the peninsula tank under the Mitras. But let's talk about kind of what we think are real keys to successful, being able to successfully grow acros at a decent clip. I mean, it's not like a race. Certain acros are going to grow much faster than other acros. I mean, yeah, in the tank, I've had a whole bunch of acros that have really grown a lot over a very short period of time, and I do think that lighting is certainly important and flow, but I also think having an elevated pH definitely helps. What What do you have any other things that you think are important for that?
I definitely wouldn't call myself like the fastest acro grower. And I'm going by like, what I see online. And I guess I had a friend who had an aquarium and his stuff seemed to grow fast too. Yeah, so I'm definitely not like, yeah. So just keep that in mind. But see, I guess, so me evaluating your 3.5 month growth picks, thank you for making me feel inadequate. But no, but seriously, just looking at your coral, if I'm going to be honest, I wouldn't say, I would guess that your good growth is not from the lighting. I would say that your good growth is from nutrients. Because I just look at the surrounding rocks and I see the bubble algae and I see that
Dude,
stuff. I'm sorry, I'm not calling you out,
dude, you know what my phosphates in that tank are right now?
What's that?
Like 0.
No, we'll get into that too. But yeah, I mean, you called it biofilm on one video. You just have a lot of stuff on your rocks, and I'm not saying that's bad, but that to me is the clue that like this dude has a shitload of nutrients in his tank, and it has to do with probably has to do with all that bacteria that you're dosing. But honestly, I don't. I guess I'll answer that question about like how your phosphates are 0. Your phosphates are 0 because all that biofilm and all that stuff is consuming it, bro. Yeah. You have a shitload of nutrients in there, bro, and that's why I think you're getting good growth. It's not necessarily the lights. You do have good light spread over that tank because you have so many of those Mitras, but at the same time, it's like I think most people who have that good light spread and that amount of nutrients will grow acros that fast. I don't know. That's just my assessment of it. I don't think it's the lights necessarily.
Yeah, remind us again in terms of where you're keeping your key parameters at. I mean, you kind of like run ultra low nutrient systems too, right?
Yeah, but so all right, so I don't own a test kit anymore for nutrients because I think they're shitty. But yeah, I mean the Hannah ones are good for about a year, and then they go to shit. But sorry, Hannah. No, but no, and I'm not saying that because of like I just bought one. It's like I have owned multiple Hannahs. Like I owned the Hannahs when they're those big ass. I don't know. I'm sure
they
you
weren't
remember.
Like little eggs.
They were like huge, bro. Yeah, like in 2009. Like that's the funny thing is people are like, oh, reef tanks back then. The old school reef tanks. When I talk about them, I was like, oh, their nutrients were low because the test kits were shitty. That's not actually true because they had those electronic testers back, at least in the late 2000s. They're just the big ass kind, and they were like $170. But anyway, so I had electronic testers going back to then, and I realized like after a year, because even having the little egg ones too is like, dude, why am I keep getting 0? My phosphates aren't 0. This is wrong. But so I stopped wasting my money on those things, and I just test my nutrients with my ICP test. But anyway, sorry, I get Well, lately I've been doing an ICP test every month.
Oh wow.
And yeah, and for my 120, the last 2 times, well, I'll tell you the last time, my nitrates were 0.00 and my phosphates were 0.01.
This is the ICP?
Yeah.
Wow.
And
are you dosing any nitrates and phosphates, or are you just feeding more to like try to like keep things semi-elevated?
I just feed, I just feed more or less depending on how the corals look. But lately they've been looking a little light, so I stepped up to feeding. But as I try to say in my videos, the nutrient level in your tank is not very isn't really telling of how much nutrition your corals are getting, right? It's like you walking into my house, opening up the fridge, and seeing like all beer. You like it's like you making an assessment on my health.
I got a fridge like that.
Sounds good. No, but you know what I mean? It's like you making an assessment on my health by looking at my refrigerator. That's equivalent to you like looking at your nutrient levels and be like, oh, this is how much my corals are getting. No, that's not right. That's too superficial. This is a very complicated hobby. There's like a lot of things that are playing with each other, playing with each other,
We got the point. We know what you're talking about.
Yeah. Like nutrient, there's a relationship between nutrients and how much power you can give corals likely, right? There's also probably alkalinity and PAR correlations. Everything's all intermingling. And for someone, and I think that's one of the mistakes that you can do as a new reefer is like, oh no, my nutrients got to be this. They got to be elevated.
Yeah, don't chase
It's
those
like,
things.
look, man. Yeah, it's like, look, man. I mean, I do realize that it takes time to develop the eye, but you know, your coral, the way your corals look is a better indicator of the nutrients or the nutrition they're getting. But yeah.
Yeah, we're getting a lot of getting a lot of comments about pH. Sammy 31D 8.4 to 8.2 for me on just BRS soda ash. Tracy Spellberg, my pH swings between 8.3 and 8.5, and the growth is amazing. Yeah, I mean that's my range in the Peninsula tank where I'm getting all that crazy growth. Is like my pH is basically averaging 8.4, and you know I get like a low of 8.3 and a high of 8.5. And I think somebody made a comment in the chat here about my air exchange unit. That is definitely something that's been helping me in terms of keeping the elevated pH. So you're using calcium reactor, right?
No, I'm actually using
Oh, you're using 2-part.
I'm using Randy's 2-part.
Oh, why did
This is
I thought you were using a calcium reactor.
you know, at a time I had a calcium reactor on there, but I didn't like how it was dragging down my pH, and also I didn't like that I still had to dose ALK. On top of that,
Yeah.
I was like, dude, this is stupid. I might as well just go back to 2-part. But you know, people don't really, you know, in order to like solve problems or learn something new, sometimes you have to ask the right question, right? You got to ask the right question to get the answer you're looking for. Sounds obvious, but anyway, something that nobody really asked me is like, why do you run 2-part? Nobody ever asked me that. It's like I could run a calcium reactor if I wanted to, but the reason why is because it increases my pH. The ALK that I use is soda ash, and that brings my pH up. You know, there's like nowadays everybody's talking about calc. Oh, chase pH, don't chase ALK levels. It's like it sounds so catchy. It's like such a buzzword, but it's like, dude, like where have you been the last, you know, whatever. We've long known that pH is important. I don't, but that's why I use 2-part is because I like using the soda ash and it bumps up my pH a lot.
Yeah.
And I think that overrides the so-called trace elements that you get out of a calcium reactor. I do think calcium reactors are overrated like a mofo because it's funny though, because like I see like these, you know, these people with it starting to set up a reef tank, like especially on Reef to Reef, they got all this sick ass equipment and they don't even have corals in their tank yet, and they already have their calcium reactor up and running. I'm just like, dude, it's so overrated. But the one thing I wanted to say about calcium reactors is like people like assume that it's giving you trace elements too at the same time.
Not,
and I'm
yeah.
not going to lie. It's probably giving you some, but at the same, it's only giving you the trace elements that are integrated in that calcium carbonate skeleton, right? It's not going to, because trace elements are also needed for like biological reactions, right? As like catalysts and all that stuff. So just don't think that the calcium reactors, your end all trace element solution, they're just overrated. I would highly recommend that people use Kalkwasser at first and then try 2-part because of the pH benefit.
So how much 2-part are you dosing on your systems every day?
It's kind of hard to, for elk, I dose about 500 mils.
Oh, wow.
I think.
It's a lot.
Yeah, it's a lot. But then again, the concentration might be different than the other brands. I use Randy's 2-part, Randy Holmes Farley's recipe.
So that's like
that's
like a homemade thing that you're doing there. So you're saving some money. You're not like using a commercial 2-part type of.
No.
Yeah, I was using like the ESV 2-part, and I was dosing like 300 mLs a day on one of my my established system, and it was just costing me an arm and a leg. You know, I did like it because of the elevated pH, but you know, I switched over to a calcium reactor on both systems. Well, I switched over to a calcium reactor on that system, and just did, you know, a couple of things to keep the you know, the pH from being depressed. And then on the new system that I started like a year and a half ago, I started that with a calcium reactor. But I do basically dose Kalkwasser to replace whatever is evaporating to make sure that I you know, keep the pH elevated. So I think that's definitely been helping. I also drip the effluent into the skimmer pump to help, you know, degas the CO2 that way. So that's definitely, you know, helpful.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we're getting a lot of comments and praise for you there, Abe, on the chat. I can't keep up with it all. There's just so many positive points about your YouTube channel, and I think people would certainly love to see you do more videos. But man, it's a lot of freaking work to do videos, isn't it? I mean, it's a lot of work, you know. And you put a lot of hard. You know, you think a lot about your videos, and yeah, they're very well thought out. So it's good stuff.
Yeah,
but
thank you.
you know, I think just you know, frequency might not necessarily be you know, the always the right way to go.
Who knows how to be successful at YouTube, right? It's all just, sometimes you get lucky with the algorithm, or like, who knows. But it's really unfortunate that our little niche isn't as popular as like some other stuff out there. So
question from Christian Rios. Abe, what's your method of offsetting the salinity increases with that amount of dosing in terms of the Randies?
So when that does happen, I usually just take out water, you know, literally just take out a water and let the, you know, top off, fill it up with a RO. But I actually, it's so weird that out of the blue, maybe like 6 months ago, I started realizing that my salinity's been dropping, and I'm like looking all over, but it was both tanks, both systems. And I'm like looking, is there a leak somewhere, or am I overly skimming? And that wasn't the case. So I'm actually technically balling now, because in my 140 gallon, I dose straight up Red Sea Coral Pro into that tank just to keep up the salinity.
Yeah.
I don't know where this salt is going, bro. But so I dose like 350 mils of Red Sea Coral Pro, you know, normal 1.025 specific gravity, into the 140 gallon daily, just to keep the salinity up. I don't know where it's going. But in the 120, which is the frag, you know, where I sell frags from, you know, I'm constantly taking water out to sell to ship frags, so I just make adjustments then.
So how much of a difference do you think salt does make in terms of keeping a successful reef tank?
Oh, I was talking about like asking the right question, and people don't ask me the right questions. That's the one question that people don't ask me, is like, because I use Red Sea Coral Pro, right? And usually the response these days is like, oh, it doesn't mix clean, or the alk is too high. I like to keep my alk at 8. People like go crazy about that stuff. And I'm not saying that Red Sea Coral Pro is the only salt that's awesome. Like, I don't care about it mixing clean, and I guess I have so many acros that I don't mind too much that it bumps up my alkalinity a little bit. But the reason I use Red Sea Coral Pro, and the salt, and what I think is important in a salt, are the trace elements, especially potassium. So I've always had success with reef crystals, but I went away from it because the potassium is low. I do think, I mean, not that I have great proof, but I do want to use a salt that's high in potassium because I don't want to dose it. Yeah.
So are you basically monitoring the potassium through your ICP test, or are you using the hobby grade kit to do that?
ICP. But it's like when I get my ICP back, all those elements are low. Barium, strontium, it's like everything is low. But the potassium's right on.
What do you like to keep your potassium at?
Whatever, natural seawater, I guess it's like 389 or something close to 400. Yeah.
Andre Faraya, if I'm pronouncing that correctly, thank you so much for the super chat. The comment is, and thank you, Keith. The exchange rate isn't great, so sorry for that.
That's still good.
Yeah. Listen, man, I really appreciate the contribution. Thank you very much. Reef under the roof. Do you guys have any tips for a nice polyp extension?
I said this on last live stream, but Keith has a nice polyp extension video that you should search for. But yeah, I mean, random flow is totally awesome for polyp extension. Even better if you can make it coming from different directions.
Yeah,
but yeah,
for sure. Somebody asked this question earlier in the chat, Abe, and I didn't ask it, but I'll ask it to you now. What's kind of like your daily routine in terms of your tanks? Do you have a kind of a little?
Oh my god, dude!
Yeah.
Like I have I'm not exaggerating. Like from the moment I wake up till the moment I go to sleep, it's something reef related. But usually like for the first couple hours in the morning, you know, I mean, it's mixed in with like eating breakfast and making coffee, but I don't know, man. There's just so much.
If it's not one thing, it's another, right?
Yeah, it's like I gotta change the filter sock out. I gotta make new 2-part solution. You know, first thing I do in the morning is inspect the frag tank to make sure no frags got bumped and are touching each other, because that's a nightmare. Like, there's nothing worse than having to send out an order that day, but they're like touching each other and they're dying because they're touching. So
Yeah,
that's
that's not good.
horrible. Yeah. It's just all the boring stuff that you have to do. I don't even know it's worth talking, but the rest of the time is usually stuff like, thinking of what video to make, writing a script for a video. I know that's hard to believe because I don't put any out, but
No,
trust
dude,
me,
man,
there's
your
time that
videos
goes
are
into
very
it.
intricate. I mean, like you've got like some animation going on in your videos and all that stuff. I mean, I don't know how you do it, dude, but that's way beyond my realm of expertise in terms of putting videos out. I just kind of like, we'll try to like shoot from the hip sometimes or script something, but yeah.
There are benefits to both ways. Sometimes you just have to shoot from the hip and things will come up along the way. But yeah, I do have a problem with being too much of a perfectionist, I guess. But
All right, dude. Let's talk about corals. You know, like specific corals. Now, you and I like had exchanged some corals a while ago. Like you picked up some pieces from me. I picked up some pieces from you. I'm picking up some more pieces from you this week.
appreciate it.
Yeah. So I got what did I get from you? I got this the Aqua SD Rainbow Millie, which I love. I had this colony in my 187 gallon tank, and it just it crapped out on me a few years ago. So I got a frag from you, and I put it in the Peninsula tank. You know, and it's weird because it seems like the tips on the Aqua SD Rainbow Millie are I'm getting good growth on them, good polyp extension, but kind of like near the base of the frag, and it's one of the frags that hasn't really grown that much for me in the tank. You know, it's kind of pale, and I don't want to say kind of bleach, but it's not doing as well as I like. Any tips on the Aqua SD Rainbow Millie? Does that like a lot of light? Do you not blast it?
Wait, say it again. The tips. So the tips look
Tips
good,
look
and the
good.
base looks
Tips
like
got
crap.
good color, good polyp extension on the tips, but then kind of like the base of the frag is kind of like not bleached out, but it's just like loss of color. So it seems to me like it's probably getting too much light, and it's probably getting like 400 par or something like that. I don't know.
I don't think it needs that much
Yeah,
power,
I know.
but yeah, it's kind of hard for me to say.
Yeah,
It's probably getting. Yeah, you have a lot of flow in that tank,
yeah.
so it's
Might
I don't know.
see it.
Maybe it doesn't like all those nutrients you
Yeah,
have
I
in
don't
there.
know, man. It's like something. Maybe,
That,
maybe
that
I have to move it around. I don't have the same system you have set up there, where it's easy to move, one piece from one part of the tank to another. So,
yeah.
what else? I've got the vivid confetti you sent me has really grown and
Okay.
encrusted very well, and it's got some good color. The reef wrapped firecracker that has not grown for me at all. It's got good color, but it's like just sitting there. And yeah, talk about that coral.
Well, I do have mine at lowish par. It's probably only getting like
Oh,
290
really?
ish par. Yeah, I don't think it needs that much. But yeah, I don't know. I think you're really speaking to how you can't make every coral happy. You have that phenomenal growth on those other pieces, but then you have pieces that aren't even
I'm trying to
moving.
get some tips
But
from you, man. I was like, all right, let me see if I can gather some intelligence from the yeah.
but it could also be where they came from. I guess I keep a lower nutrient tank, level tank, and maybe they're just used to that. Maybe it's going to just take some time to adjust to your system. It's just hard to say. But
So you got the Crayola Plana for me, and you mentioned that one is
oh,
doing well. You like that frag, right?
yeah. Yeah, it's just purple and green, but it's like so. I mean, I have it under T5s and LEDs, but I love the purple. It's very vibrant. It's just a nice looking piece. I get excited about that kind of stuff.
Yeah, and it's
I
a
don't.
classic
Yeah,
too.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. It's like a $30 frag, but I'm like, oh, this is cool.
Did you get the Blue Boy table frag from me?
I did.
Yeah.
That one had a rough time in
Uh,
quarantine, but thank God it didn't die. But it's actually colored up well for me now, but it hasn't been growing. But it's fine. Maybe I need to move it, but I'll just leave it there for a
that
while. But the polyps are out, color's
that
good.
one
I'll
tends
just
to
leave it.
like encrust a lot before it starts kind of sprouting out. But Now, what about the Tyree Ice Fire Econata? Was that a piece you got from me? Because you mentioned you haven't had a lot of luck with that.
I did. Yeah, this is my third one, but that one is actually alive and actually looking good. It actually died a little bit at the base.
Oh no!
But then I didn't do anything, and it just turned around. Now it's encrusting back down. So happy about that, man. Those Econatas are a beast for me.
Yeah, you know, and mine doesn't really. I don't blast it with light. It's kind of like in the bottom third of both of my tanks. I put another frag in my my peninsula tank as like a backup to the other colony that I have in the other system. Yeah.
What can I ask you something?
Go for it.
So about that 3.5-month growth, yeah, it's still stuck in my head. Like, I mean, what do you think it's from? You think it's the lights or the light spectrum, or what is your best guess on that?
I think pH has got a lot to do with it, because I think like I mentioned, the average pH in that tank is like 8.4. So like the low is 8.3 and the high is usually like 8.5. So I definitely think that pH is a big part of that. And yeah, I think the Mitras are definitely helping. I've got 6 Mitras over that tank, so I've got great coverage. And but the spectrum that I'm using is mimicking 400 watt 20K halides. So I was able to kind of like bring in my my favorite kind of lighting to the LEDs by, and I don't know if you know Telegram on YouTube and on Instagram, but he was the one that did the spectral plot for me. And so yeah, I basically programmed that in, and yeah, because I don't like the blue light, and it's initially when I set that up in terms of that spectrum with the LEDs, and I didn't have any corals in the tank, I was like, man, that's like freaking blue. I was like, man, I don't know if I can get used to that, even like with the spectrum that's mimicking the 400 watt 20K halides, because I was like looking across the room to the other tank that had that has 2 400 watt 20K radiums on it, which is like, and it made those lights look like they were yellow. But now that I've got a lot of corals in the tank with the Mitras, it doesn't look that blue to me. It actually looks more full spectrum and pretty similar to the halide lit tank across the room.
So with that growth in that tank, is that changing the way you do things in the 187 gallon? Have you considered that, or?
Oh, in terms of using Mitras on on that system.
But also in like bacteria, do you bacteria dose in the 187?
I do the exact same things on both systems. The only difference between the two systems is the lighting. So I've got LEDs on the Peninsula tank, and I've got the halides and T5s on the other tank. And yeah, the PAR is much lower on the halides and the T5 tank versus the LED lit tank. But yeah, I'm using calcium reactors in both systems. I'm dosing Kalk in both systems. I'm dosing bacteria on both systems. I'm not using. Sorry, man, I'm not using your bucket fuge anymore. I ditched the bucket fuge. Are you still using that?
I do. There are definitely, especially lately, there are times when I think like, do I really need this? Is it competing for the coral, out competing or competing with the corals for nutrients, blah blah, trace elements, blah blah blah. So I'm kind of on the verge of experimenting with taking it off.
Dose bacteria, dude. That's what I did. As soon as I started dosing bacteria, I got offline on the Kato, and it was much less of a hassle. I couldn't perfect the bucket fuge type of deal that you had going, because I had all the Kato was like clogging into the drain going into the bucket fuge. I don't know. It was and I every now and then my Kato would also crash, but you never had that problem, right?
No, because I mean the Kato for the most part sinks, and my Kato doesn't grow sometimes, but it definitely doesn't crash. So I guess we didn't have the same problems.
Yeah.
But yeah, the whole bacteria thing is just like, see, first of all, I just want to say, like, for you, since you get great results with it, have at it. But I'm just having trouble like with that stuff making sense in my head. Even I think his name was Eli, the guy who tests bacteria.
Yeah.
Like he's even saying like that shit doesn't live in your system, right? He said that on your live stream. He said that on Devin Reef Dude's live stream. So I don't know. It just seems like on one hand it sounds like pseudoscience to me, but on the other hand, if it's giving you the results that you want, then
I can't.
You can't argue with that.
I think there's a lot of theories out there, and I think there needs to be more scientific proof that that actually is working. I've talked about the fact that, is the equipment that we have today, the skimmers, the filtration systems, are they just so much more powerful today than they were in years past, that they're just pulling out beneficial bacteria? Is that the case? Do you need to supply that beneficial bacteria to the tank? Do you have RTN, STN events that potentially can be avoided if you're constantly dosing this beneficial bacteria? I don't know. I don't know if anybody can really has proven that yet.
Yeah, I mean, I'm more on the sorry, go ahead. No, I was gonna say, like, I'm more on the side of like Sanjay, like more skeptical. Yeah. I don't know, man. Like everybody, like bacteria is like the big thing now. Everybody's talking about bacteria, like buzzwords. Buzzword. Here are the buzzwords. It's chase pH, not elk. Bacteria, biodiversity. Like, how come we're not talking about reefroids anymore? How come we're not talking about like the Triton method? That was just like a couple years ago. Now it seems like it's just so trendy, bro. Like Kalkwasser went in and out is faster than like bell bottoms, because I guess bell bottoms are coming back in now. It's like, dude, now Kalkwasser just went in and out, just like, or it's in now, but it's like crazy, man.
I listen, it's there are so many different ways to run a reef tank, and if you're successful doing what you're doing, then yeah, don't deviate from it. I mean, is there a lot of things that you're probably reef keepers are putting in their reef tanks, me included, that are not necessary? Yeah, probably. But again, the old adage, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. I think that yeah, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, you're totally right, but I guess I feel the frustration of newcomers to the hobby because there's just so much shit, man. Like, I don't know. Anyway.
There's a lot of information out there. There's a lot of a lot of products. There's a lot of different options. So you kind of mentioned this at the beginning, that you're an old school reefer and you don't really do much in terms of changing your methods over time. But have you would you say in the last couple of years that you have made any tweaks to your methodology? And
oh, dude, yeah. Sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
No, I was gonna say the biggest thing that I tried was the trace element dosing, because I was getting ICP tests, and I have like all these bottles in my cupboard right now that are unused. But yeah, I tried dosing all those trace elements. It didn't really work, and I think some negative came out of it too. Like I think some corals didn't like it, but it could have been that I was like overdosing, or maybe I was using a bad one. I just didn't really see the benefit in doing it, so So I have a cupboard with like hundreds of dollars worth of ATI trace elements.
So besides bacteria dosing, is there anything else you're kicking around in terms of potentially making some changes?
Not really. The short answer is no. I always have my ear out though. You got to keep an open mind. So not yet. I haven't really found anything yet.
Blue Reef had a question. Does Abe run his skimmer 24/7?
No, I'm not. Drum Clock is asking if I wear bell bottoms. No, I don't. I'm still stuck in I just recently started wearing like skinny-ish jeans, so it's going to be too quick of a change for me. No, but I do run my skimmer 24/7. Yeah, nutrients is always an interesting topic, but heavy in and heavy out is where I like to be.
Yeah, folks, keep throwing out some questions there. This is great. And so, dude, what corals do you not have that you're looking to acquire? What's out there that strikes your fancy?
You know what? I bought one Acropora speciosa, and yeah, I like it. So it's like, shit, man. I guess I got to get more. But yeah, that one was like, I bought it locally and he gave me a deal, and it was still $500. Whoa. But anyway, I don't know why I said that, but it's nice though. But it's like $500, bro.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, I'll take it.
Sign me up.
No, I guess the thing is, so like, I actually was thinking about this is, like I'm at the point in my reefing career, because I'm so salty, but I'm just looking for something different now. Like I'm. Not to offend the tenuous lovers out there, but that shit is played out to me, man. There's always going to be a different one, especially the red polyp tenuous, man. It's just, they all look the same, bro. I just want something different. So that's kind of where I stand.
You know, you mentioned you did a video in terms of colors and mixing colors the right way, and you moved some stuff around. Can you talk a little bit about that in terms of kind of like a reef tank and the palette of colors on a reef tank, and why you feel that was something you needed to do?
Oh yeah, I mean, it's just, there's just too many red acros out there. Red, pink, that whole shade, bro. It's just
I
too
love
much,
that
man.
stuff, man. That's like my favorite. I can't get enough of the red and the pinks, but
But
that's
when they're
me.
all
Yeah,
together,
no,
it
you're
just
right.
looks like a
You're
big,
right.
you know what I
Yeah,
mean?
you're right.
And yeah, and the funny thing about that is the color that breaks up the reds well is the color that nobody wants, greens.
Greens
So
are
yeah,
great. Greens and
oh
blues.
yeah, it's everybody has their own thing. That was just kind of just my thing. Like I had people like saying it's like your artistic skills are crap. There's like comments
Oh,
on my
really?
videos like okay. Yeah, so I mean cuz and I'm cool with that cuz I have no, I'm no damn artist. I don't think I am. But I do think it's nice though when there's all these contrasting colors. That's pretty much where that came
Yeah.
from.
Lynn Reef Nerd, thank you so much for the super chat. Thank you for all the great info, guys. Always learn something great from you, Abe. Please make more great videos.
Thanks. I'm actually working on one right now, so you'll see it soon, whatever
It'll
that
be
means.
dropping soon.
Yeah. The hardest part is committing to a topic, and I've committed. So
You're all in on the topic.
I'm all in on this topic. It's going to be different, like other ones, and so people are going to have those because I get some pretty mean comments sometimes.
Do you? I
But
always see the comments like, man, you just like tell it like it is, man. You're truthful, you're honest, and you know. Well, there's always haters, though.
delete.
There's always haters.
Yeah, totally. I delete the bad ones. That's the beauty of having, that's the beauty of this. I could just delete the bad ones.
There you go.
I mean, if it was a bad one with constructive criticism, a legitimate point, then I wouldn't delete it. I'd address it and leave it there. But it's the stupid people.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, but it's what happens when you put yourself out there. People are gonna say bad stuff about you. So anyway, I accept it.
That's the game we're in. Buffalo Sabres 4296. Abe, maybe I missed it, but what's your thoughts on the Reef Moonshiners method?
Oh, I mean, how is that any different than the Triton method? How is that? It's just trace elements, bro. So it's cool. I don't think it's bad, but is it better than Balling? Is it better than Triton? I don't know. It's just another trend. Here's my question: are we going to be talking about moonshiners in a year from now? Because going by like the trends in reefing, I have this nothing against moonshiners, but just anything that we're doing today, I have a serious doubt that it's going to be talked about a lot in a year. It's going to go out just like bell bottoms. yeah. Moonshiners is coming in with bell bottoms again, and so as bell bottoms go back out, I'm not trying to say anything bad about moonshiners, but chasing pH is going to go out with bell bottoms, I guess.
Josh the Box, what do you think about biomedia? Is it needed if live rock is present in the tanks? What are your thoughts in terms of you had to start up a tank, and would you be using biomedia if you were using dry rock with that startup tank?
Nah, I mean, no. I just use live rock, or I just use rock, and I only think that that biomedia became so popular because we started moving more towards like minimalist aquascapes and getting more artsy and stuff like that. But is it necessary if you have a good amount of rock in your tank? No. Do I think it's important which kind of rock you use? Because, yeah, I mean, I do think it's good to have surface area. Porosity is good. That just gives you more surface area for all that biodiversity buzzword that everybody talks about nowadays. Yeah, you need place for biodiversity to live. But everyone wants to talk about bacteria. It's like, how come nobody's talking about viruses and fungi and, there's the single-celled organisms? Like, it's not only bacteria. Everyone's talking about bacteria. It's just crazy. Buzzwords, man. Buzzwords. But next year we're going to be dosing viruses in our tank because that's going to be the hot thing.
You could start that trend.
Yeah, I'm serious. Like, and then when you think about it, it's like here's another thing too. Is like so this hobby is it's a science as much as it is an art, right? And because it's a lot of it is a science, you would think that the things that advance the hobby are science based, right? Because it's a science. However, the way that I know it sounds like I'm pessimistic and negative about it, but the way I see it is that a lot of what gets introduced into the hobby and what like sort of catches on as far as like trends, it's not even science-based stuff. So I guess that's my question for reefing in general is like, are we going to just let entrepreneurs who are just out to make money advance the hobby? Are we going to actually let scientists advance the hobby and make us better at keeping corals through science? Because there's not a lot of that going on. And trust me, I understand you can't. It's hard for it's hard to prove stuff, using scientific method. But that's why I'm always skeptical of like products, especially when their science is like pseudoscience and there's all this hand waving. It's like, dude, there's no proof that this shit works, man. And sorry, and I just caution the reefing community from letting letting companies with just profits in mind to advance the hobby, because that's not advancing, that's taking a step back. Like I always say, and I'm old school obviously, that the book on keeping on how to keep acropora was written over 20 years ago, bro, and that hasn't changed. See, that's science. I mean, we're still, like I'd said in my fundamentals acropora fundamentals video, it's like we're still essentially doing the same thing we did 20 years ago. We're just doing different ways about, like, it's just like your bacteria dosing. How is that any different from like zeovit? Because it's technically a bacteria driven method, right? And you even say yourself, like, I don't need to run a refugium because my bacteria dosing takes care of my nutrients. Like, how is that so much different than zeovit? How is that so much different from biopellets? It's essentially the same thing. See, I don't think we're advancing as much as we think we are. We're just finding different ways of doing the same thing, and companies are profiting from it, which is fine. I'm not hating on that. You gotta eat too, but at the same time, just don't think that we're advancing because all this stuff is coming out. That's not necessarily true. We're still doing the same stuff we were doing 20 years ago.
Yeah, Bert Minshew says we need to prove who is the absolute best SPS reefer in the hobby and base from there. But I think Mike Paletta did some work where he essentially surveyed, I don't know how many tanks it was, like top SPS keepers, and try to like get consensus in terms of the different methods that those top SPS keepers are utilizing. It was an interesting article. I'm gonna have to go back and take a look at it just to kind of see what came out of that. But I remember some of the points in that article, but I think that's kind of like what Bert is talking about. You got to like just look at the successful reefers and see if you can kind of see a consensus in terms of the methods that are being employed by those successful reefers. But you're not gonna find a complete consensus. I mean, there's just so many different variables in play, and you've got pretty strong opinions, right, from one individual to the next.
Yep.
Yeah.
Totally agree.
Yeah.
Totally agree. But underneath all of that is the fundamentals that hasn't really changed, is what I'm arguing. But if you would send me that article, I'd like to read it too.
Yeah.
It sounds like a good one.
Yeah. What else? So Mike Andrews is asking, do you manually test or use automated testing like Trident? Do you have an alkalinity monitor or Trident or anything like that?
Oh shoot, my battery died.
the camera died.
No, because let me just switch it out. It's going to take like 2 seconds.
Yeah.
I was prepared for this.
Got a little break in the programming, folks. I was gonna ask you, man. You're running your camera as a video.
Yeah,
camera.
It's because
he's back.
I'm trying to make myself look better. Yeah, I look slimmer, dude, when I use this lens. No, but what was the question again?
I completely forgot what I was asking you. What was it was manual. Do you use like an automated alkalinity monitor? Like, do you use like a Trident?
Oh, no.
No?
Here's going to be me seemingly like I'm bashing another company. No, I mean, I don't, because I think it's more complication than needs to be there. I mean, in theory, it's awesome because you don't really have to do much. But look, I'm not going after Neptune. I have an Apex on all my tanks. But one thing that turned me off about it was when I first got my Apex for my 140 gallon, which was set up like 2.5 years ago. It's like, dude, I couldn't even calibrate the pH and the conductivity probe straight out the box. And I wasn't doing anything wrong. I mean, it's pretty simple. I'm not dumb. And after that I just lost a lot of faith in that stuff being accurate. And I'm not the only one, because not too many people put a lot of faith in those probes anyway. So after that, I was kind of like, dude, I'm not going to get an Apex. Like, I mean, I'm not going to get a Triton. I can't, it couldn't even calibrate my pH correctly. There's no way in hell I'm going to trust it with my alkalinity. So it's also that, and also that I don't think that testing manually is a big deal. You know, I do have a degree in chemistry, so titrating is like the simplest thing in the world. It's like basic chemistry. I don't think that there's anything more trustworthy than titrating.
So you're for alkalinity, you're testing how often with a hot?
Oh, dude, I'm pretty bad. It's like sometimes every 2 weeks.
Really, for alkalinity? Wow.
Because it doesn't change that much. And when I do adjustments, like I told you, I was dosing 500 mil. I dose about 500 mils. Like, dude, I'm only adjusting like 5 mils at a time. So I test it's a little off. I'll just bump it up or decrease it by 5 or 10 mils. So yeah, it doesn't change that much.
Any plans in the future to add tanks to the system? What does the future hold for coral Euphoria there? Is it going to be expanding? Are you going to be just kind of holding the line there? What do you got? What's your 5-year plan there, Abe?
Officially, that's confidential. Only company officers know the answer to that question. All right, I'll tell you, but I'll be very general. For sure, I'm going to continue selling frags for now. But I do want to venture out into other things. Like I do want to invent my own products, because
cool.
I'm not going to say specifically, but I do think that there are, with all the shit that's out there. Sorry, with all the stuff that's out there, I do think that there's some shortcomings. Like I'm not going to say I'm not saying I'm going to do a skimmer, but like, for example, I think that all the skimmers, there's something wrong, or is there something that could be improved with all the skimmers? You know what I mean? There's not like one perfect skimmer for me, but it's not skimmers. It's something else. But but I do want to develop my own products eventually. But I don't have
cool,
any,
man.
Yeah, I don't have any time.
Reef Lost Way, thank you so much for the super chat. Beer on me, Keith. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. I will have that beer on you. Abe, who are some of your SPS mentors?
Well, I mean, it was, since I'm like, came from those Reef Central days in the 2000s, like a lot of those tank of the month dudes, ReefBum was one of them. Keith was one of them. They just had a big influence on like how I reef. So it's everybody. Sanjay was there. There's just too many to name. But I remember like Nando from like Italy. He had this crazy tank. And then there's like Christoph, I think, from like Poland. I mean, dude, it just go back to all those Reef Central dudes. Yeah, those guys had a big influence. I mean, they're really who got me all motivated, just dreaming about having those tanks.
What about anybody locally? Did you have any mentors locally, or was it all just from forums or just online?
Yeah, it was all online. Although I did live I went to medical school in Richmond. That's where the medical school is, and just an awesome place, man. Like the reefing community is awesome, because the city's not that big, and so you actually have club meetings. And there was a guy, Vince, who had an awesome like 320 gallon, I think is what it was. But there's some other guys out there who are really nice and gave me frags, and it's a cool group of guys over in Richmond. Now, San Diego, we don't have that because it's a lot bigger. And
really, so you don't have a real tight knit local reefing community around in San Diego. I would assume that, man, you got like a lot of reef keepers that you could tap into there.
Oh, we do, but we don't. We're not really. I mean, we're all on the board selling stuff here and there, but yeah, we don't really, unless I'm kept out of the loop. But we don't meet up, and there's no like meetings where everybody hangs out and drinks at somebody's house with a nice tank. That's kind of nice. At the same time, it's a lot of work for the host, but
So I've seen this question a couple of times. Jim Carson, question, Abe, electricity change in billing, 4 p.m. to 9 p.m. Will this make you change anything? Well, so explain that. I don't understand. Well, you guys are actually going to be charged more electricity out in California between those hours?
Yeah, there's like SDG&E, at least they have like these different tiered pricing for the time of the day. Like I think when everybody gets off work after 4 is like peak time, and that's when they charge a little bit more. So they try to encourage everybody to like pre-cool the house during the day, and then whatever. No, that hasn't changed anything. I still spend a lot on electricity. I'll just tell you I have like I think it's like 400 gallons worth of display now, and last bill was like $850.
So I have about 600 gallons in my I'm like, you know, in the $500 to $600 range. I had Andrew Sandler on. You know Andrew Sandler? He has like the 17,000 in-home reef tank. I don't know if you saw that episode, but I believe he said that his monthly electricity bill, $16,000 a month, $17,000 a month for that system. Crazy.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Yeah.
So you've got the 120, you've got the 140. What's the rest of the setup? Did you ever get those low boys, man? I'm telling you, those low boys, bad mojo for me. Leaked on me.
Yeah,
did you put one together, or did you like strip it apart and put it together?
I didn't show them on the videos that I just gave to you because I was planning to reveal that kind of stuff later. And plus
I'm sorry. Did I like just?
Oh, no, no. I mean, I'll tell you what I have. You just don't get to see it. No, but attached to the 120, I had set up a 40-gallon breeder as my frag tank, but I got rid of that quickly. As the frag tank, I turned it into a little display. And now I have the 120, the 40-gallon breeder, and then I have two 50-gallon low boys. But I did re-silicone them, so then they're fine. Because I heard all those horror stories about the low boys leaking. But it's like, dude, $159 for that nice dimensions. I mean, it's a little too shallow at 10 inches. I'd rather have it at least 12. Yeah. But that price for a frag tank, if it doesn't leak, is awesome. So.
Yeah, no, I was definitely in panic mode when I saw that freaking thing like starting to leak. I was like, Jesus, that was like the first time I ever had a tank leak on me. And so I had another brand new low boy that I just freaking took to the garbage dump. I just tossed it. I couldn't even give it away. I couldn't, like, you know, I live in the boondocks here in Vermont. This is not like, you know, a big aquarium community around where I'm at. And I was trying to give it away. I was like, hey, somebody wanted a terrarium or something, you know. I was like, and I couldn't give it away, so I threw it away.
Yeah, you must really be in the boondocks.
Rob, upstate New York, thank you so much, man, for the super chat. Great chat once again, Keith. I appreciate that. What was I going to ask you? So, all right, you've got the frag tanks, and are they plumbed into the 120 and the 140? How do you have all that stuff set up, or is it like on a separate system? Do you have two systems or three systems?
Well, all that stuff is connected to the 120.
Okay.
The 140 is just by itself, but it's kind of weird because you know how I added them after. So it's like the stuff from the 120, half of it drains into the 40, and then that drains into the 50, and then that finally drains into the other 50-gallon, and then that finally goes into the sump. So it's kind of like stepwise, which is not really ideal, but it works.
Dude, you just super chatted me?
Oh yeah, it's just so easy to click, man. There's this little dollar sign.
Thanks, dude. You're the first guest that ever like super chatted me while I was interviewing the guest. So that's a first.
I like to be different.
What do you? Let's talk more about. Do you have like a few more minutes to chat? I don't want to like.
Yeah, totally.
All right.
Is the
what
people dropping off?
No. No, not at all. What do you want to say that we haven't talked about? Is there anything on your mind?
I feel like I went off on a lot of things today. No, I guess.
What do you think are the most overrated corals?
More preaching.
Yeah.
No, I'm gonna hurt feelings if I answer that. Yeah, I don't want to because some of those guys are my friends.
You don't have to answer that question.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure that people think that acros are overrated, right? Everyone just has their own taste, but yeah, I don't know. I'm not going to say anymore. I do have a list of things that I think are overrated. But
all right, how about this question? What do you think are like the most underrated corals out there? Hidden gems, stuff that people don't really like embrace that they should be embracing.
Just generally speaking, like stuff that has been around for a while is usually underrated. Like if it looks good, like because people are looking after like rare stuff and that makes them worth more, blah, 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 something new. But something like Vivid Rainbow, I was like, how is that not like $100 coral? You know what I mean? You don't even need blue lights to make that a rainbow. And then like I did fill the 120 with some like random LPS for the bottom, and I bought this Fascination Favia for like $25 locally, and I'm like, dude, how is this thing $25? It has like all these different colors, and I'm just like, dude, people are crazy. But that's obviously been around for a while. But I'm sure people have a Fascination Favia, like, oh yeah, that thing's crazy. Do you have one?
What
A Fascination Favia?
No, I do not.
It's colorful, bro, but
I
it's
don't
so
know.
old. It's like $20.
I used to have some Favia in an old reef tank. Yeah, like a Christmas tree Favia. It's really cool, you know, and
Yeah.
you know, and you can put them in a high flow area tank. It doesn't really you know matter, and it's just super colorful and super hardy. So I got to get some more Favia in my tanks, but I don't know, dude. I got like yeah, that 187 gallon tank is so freaking chock full. I'm getting ready to like do the whole complete reboot on the thing, and I'm gonna take it really, take it really freaking slow. I mean, I got
yeah, I would have done that.
I got like zoanthids coming out of the wazoo. I mean, I got like my tub Stiletta Montepora is like just like totally taking over the tank. So a couple of thanks to Bruno Bartz for the super chat, as well as Eric Mez. We're going to get to your questions in a second. But the question I have for you, Abe, are there any corals that you regret putting in your tanks in terms of growing too fast or just, you know, encrusting and killing crap?
Yeah, kind of. Like I used to have blue clove polyps all over my 120. That was one reason why I broke it down, just to get rid of them. It wasn't terrible, but I don't know if I regret it, but I did. That was part of the reason why I rebooted that tank a couple years ago. But you know, like your problem with those, like that's not a problem with me because I have my removable coral method.
Yeah.
So yeah, I generally, you know, you're not gonna, you know, that solves a lot of problems. I can't reef without that. But yeah, if I don't like a coral, I just take it out now.
That's easy for you to say. It's not hard. It's not very easy for me. That's the beauty of your method. Yeah, Great Bearded Reef of St. Paul is saying all we need is like 10 more likes, and we hit 100 likes for this live stream. I think that could be a record. But Bruno, let's get to Bruno's question. And his question, I think, is for you. A best tips for a mixed reef new to SPS.
Best tip.
Best tip. Yeah, what would you say your top tips are for keeping a mixed reef?
New to SPS. Yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah. So you have a mixed reef, and then you want to get into acro. I'm assuming acro is not just SPS, like not Montes. You mean acros? It's just I don't know how to say it except that you just have to have a tighter control on things. Don't underestimate the importance of flow. Don't underestimate the importance of light spread. And don't be too crazy with your nutrients. Like this whole notion of LPS and softies need nutrients. I mean, I call them excess nutrient levels. The nutrients that are floating in your water that the test kit actually picks up, that's excess. You know what I mean? That's stuff that's not used. But I'm saying don't think that they need to be elevated for your LPS or softies. That's hogwash, dude. Mine, I just told you mine are like 0, and my torches are growing well. My softies are growing well. Just have a tight control on that kind of stuff. But yeah, don't underestimate light spread and flow.
And Eric's comment is big ups to you both. Thanks for all you do! Exclamation point. Question for you. What I can't pronounce it. Matteo, is that correct? Millet, what maintenance do you just hate to do, Abe?
Oh, I think it's a good question. This is not maintenance, but I hate this. You're gonna be like, oh, this ungrateful fucker. But I kind of dislike cutting frags for orders. It's like, oh man, I have to cut some more frags. And part of that reason is because I'm actually allergic to reefing. I've developed I have bad skin to begin with, like I have psoriasis, but yeah, I just break out in rash now if I just touch salt water.
Well, that's
like,
not good,
my
dude.
hands are all messed up. Yeah, no, but I'm okay. I wear gloves now, so I went back to wearing gloves. They always get holes in them quick, but I just bought like a bunch of those yellow ones wholesale. So that's the one thing I don't look forward to, but everything else is fine. But that you bring up a good question, because I think what a lot of newbies don't realize, and I'm sure Keith you would agree, is that a lot of what you do, this is said many times, so I'm not saying anything new, but you know, you have to make it easy for yourself to do the maintenance. You know what I mean? You can't have a sump that's all cramped with all this stuff. It's just going to be harder to do maintenance. You're less likely to do it. Yeah, you just gotta, and it's not easy to think of this stuff when you're a newbie, but you know, when people usually upgrade, they usually correct that. They're like, okay, I'm gonna leave a lot of space for this and a lot of space for that. But yeah, just try to make it easy for you. Don't cram everything in there.
Yeah, you know what? Every 3 months, I do like a major cleaning of my return pumps on each system, and I hate that because it's, you know, I take out the pumps, I disassemble them, I put them in vinegar, soak them in vinegar for like 30 minutes, and then reassemble them, put them back in, and it's just like it's like a big maintenance day for me, and I just I like it on my. I have like this little maintenance calendar with like a little checklist and all that stuff, and I like it when I don't have any X's during that week to do anything major, you know. Other than like have to do with the normal water changes and stuff like that. Are you doing like weekly water changes?
Yeah, I try to, but usually it takes like, you know, I just let the brute trash can sit there for like a couple of days, so it ends up like a week and a half. But I like to mix. I don't know. I think BRS did a video on like the optimal time of, you know, mix time for salts. I didn't even watch it. I mean, I guess what my point is that I guess what I'm trying to say is that I like to mix my stuff for at least 2 days. Like I'll let it mix for 2 days at least. But yeah.
Marcos Herrera, Abe is hands down the most knowledgeable reefer I know, and that is a triple exclamation point.
You know, thank you. I'm just a reefer though, and I've been doing it for a while, and I think I'm skeptical a lot of things. I don't know. I just try to be smart about it, and I try not to be persuaded by all this stuff going around me, and you know, just try to make sense of stuff.
Yeah, no,
but thank you.
Sure. All right, dude. Well, listen. I think we've grabbed your time there for long enough, and this was an awesome conversation. I really thank everybody that was tuning in and participated in terms of asking questions and dropping comments. You know where to find Abe if you need to get a question or a consult or whatever, or pick up some frags at coraleuphoria.com. And of course, he's got the YouTube channel, and I guess we'll be seeing a video coming out from you pretty soon there, right, Abe? Looking forward to that. Anything else you want to plug?
No, no, I don't want to plug anything, but just thank you for watching, and thank you for all the support. And I am a little sorry if I offended people.
I don't think you really offended anybody. I think it's refreshing. Okay, all right. Well, listen, that's going to do it for this show, and I want to give my sincere thanks to Abe for being on the live stream, and I also want to thank both Bulk Reef Supply and Ecotech Marine for being a sponsor and supporting the show. I also want to thank everybody that tuned in and watched, especially the folks that made the contributions via the super chat. Also, a reminder: all episodes of Rappin' with the ReefBum are available as podcasts on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and Stitcher. The next live stream will be Thursday, April 14th at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and this will be an interesting show. I've got the Reef Beefers, Ben Johnson and Rich Ross on, plus Tulio from Reef Brite. So we had the three of them on a while ago, and we're going to get that group back together. So it should certainly be another interesting, entertaining show. And yeah, if you folks want to check out the full lineup of guests on the Rappin' with ReefBum show, just visit reefbum.com. And thank you, Matt, for that super chat. Appreciate it. Thank you for tonight as a comment. Anyway, folks, until next time, be safe, be well, and we will see you then. Later.